Welcome back, everyone. You know, the U.S. automotive industry facing some serious problems as this financial crisis worsens. This is probably not news to anyone, but AutoNation, the nation's largest car dealer group, has actually seen its stock drop by about 32% year to date. Mike Jackson is AutoNation's chairman and CEO, and he joins us live this morning from Fort Lauderdale. And, Mike, we check in with you from time to time, but how has the situation changed, let's say, over the last 2 weeks?
Well, Becky, good morning. I was hoping we could talk about inflation risk this morning or something like that. Obviously, we've gone from a credit crisis or a credit squeeze to a credit panic. And I've been across the country in our stores these past couple weeks, and it is not pretty. The banks are looking for every excuse in the world to say no. And they're saying no to good customers with good credit that would be business very good for them. And it's impacting volumes in our industry that was already weak by another 15 to 20%. This, of course, is going to lead to job losses at the manufacturer, supplier, and at the retail level. And the next shoe to drop is that when you have an economic slowdown, usually the cost of money goes down. Well, with the blowout in spreads, the cost of borrowing is actually going up. And if the LIBOR issue is not addressed, the percentage of commercial loans and mortgages that are benchmarked to LIBOR in the U.S. is staggering. That's going to be the next problem. And finally, there is a break in confidence in trust that simply has to be restored in the American economy. And our economic leaders, Mr. Bernanke and Mr. Paulson, have asked for resources to combat this situation. And watching over the last 2 weeks what's going on in Washington has not done anything to restore confidence and trust. So it's a very dramatic situation. I really hope the vote goes the right way today, because this is you want to talk about a toxic combination. If you have a credit crisis on top of an economy that's already slowing down, you got to go back a long way in history till we've had this combination. It's always been catastrophic.
Mike, what's a for instance? Describe someone who could have gotten a loan 2 weeks ago and can't today. What kind of credit score?
I'll give you an example. We had a good customer with a 680 credit score who is a confirmed leaseor. He only leases. So he wanted to lease a car for 4 years. The bank said no. So after much discussion, he says, look, I'll tell you what. I'll write you a check for all 4 years' payments right now. The bank said no. So prepay the entire lease. The bank said no. The banks do not have the money to lend. They need to be, the liquidity and solvency issue has to be addressed. But the orders have come down from the tops of these banks. Don't give out money, and they'll look for any excuse to say no.
Hey, Mike, GM, I think this week said they're losing 10 to 12,000 sales a month because of the credit issue. Is it that? Are people still coming on the lot looking to buy but can't get the credit? Or are they so strapped and nervous about their pocketbooks that they're not even coming to the showroom anymore?
Carl, I would put it in two categories. Up until the last 10 days, we've still had good traffic, but the banks were saying no. We used to have an approval rate on prime credit of about 90 to 95%. We found a solution. That's down to 60%. And if I go to the other end of the spectrum, subprime, we used to have an approval rate of 50%. We'd find a solution. That's down to 10%. Now, the last 10 days with the soap opera that's going on in Washington, there's been a break in confidence and trust. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen here, and that has really had a significant impact on traffic on top of everything else.
Hey, Mike, we saw the, I don't know, some Chevy dealer. I know you saw that. Have you closed anything yet? Anything in your plans to...
You mean the one that filed Chapter 11?
Yeah, the one that I mean, was that poorly run? But are there well-run dealerships versus poorly run ones? I mean, that seems like an outlier, right? Are you considering closing anything?
No, I would say, I would put it this way, Joe. First, there is a significant overcapacity issue with the domestic franchises at retail. That's been an issue that's been sitting there for years that needed to be addressed that has not been addressed. You combine overcapacity with this steep decline, and there's going to be a significant fallout. Where the industry used to lose a couple hundred dealerships a year, I think over the next couple years that is going to break into the thousands. And there is a business model of high inventories with high marketing costs, very aggressive tactics, and razor-thin margins that has existed in automotive retail. That business model is dead in this environment. The combination of overcapacity and this big downturn is going to be a big shakeout.
So what are you going to do?
As far as our company, we went into the year very conservatively, figured it was going to be a rough year. So strong balance sheet, low lean inventories, tough operating standards. We had a cost-cutting plan in place for $100 million that we fully gave a green light back in May, June that we'll execute. So we're solidly in the black, and we hope to come out of this stronger relative to the competition than we went into it. But I have to tell you, the environment is not fun for us or for anyone else.
Were you cautious enough, given everything that's happened since the spring?
Well, we are something beyond worst-case scenario, Carl, quite frankly. If you look at September sales, an annual sales rate of 12.5 million, you have to go back to the early 1990s to find something like that. So clearly, we are at the moment beyond worst case. But, hey, if you have to go back 100 years in economic history to find a combination of a weak economy where you throw a financial panic into it. And we really need our leaders in Washington to make the right decisions to not let this financial panic, these dominoes, this cascading effect that's taking place, continue. They have to stop that.
All right, Mike, we want to thank you for joining us today. Always great to talk to you.
Good seeing everyone.
All right, again, Mike Jackson from AutoNation.